Today I'm going to tackle the valve cover gaskets, and I know at least all of this has to come off. I'm not sure about what up here has to come off, so I'm gonna get started with all of this stuff. Ignition coils. That thing was so brittle it broke even more. Maybe I can just leave that and take it off by the connector. Maybe that's what I'll do. Yep, that one's leaking as well. As is that one. All right, this connector here, thankful it's still intact. The injector connectors, there's 3 of them. There's another bolt there that can be removed with a 10 mm. Gonna remove this connector. There's a mount point there as well. There's another mount point here. Then this here, I'd like to take this off. Connection on the alternator. If I'm messing with the alternator, might as well disconnect the negative battery terminal. So I'm gonna take off this little nut. I don't even think that frees it up as much as I thought it would. But what I will do is set these aside because they just take up a lot of space. This one was replaced because it's a Duralast, and that was the center one. I'm gonna remove this connector. The stakes get higher and higher with each connector I remove. And go figure. I pressed it until I heard a click and then it broke. Well, maybe it didn't. Now we have a ground wire, which is gonna be easy to forget. And there's one more bracket that I think will help out if I remove it, and it's right here. I think this will help, but we'll know once I get it off. All right, does that help? Not really, because it's caught up over here. So over here, I spy another bolt that I'm gonna remove, and hopefully that'll give me more freedom of movement right here. This bolt is a prime candidate for getting dropped. All right, moving right along. So we're gonna keep going that way. But rather than removing bolts, this one has a little clip, just pull up on, and that frees it. What else do I have to remove? Backtracking to the alternator area, there is this connector here. And there is another one below, but that does give us a bit more freedom. And I'm gonna disconnect this because this intake manifold is gonna have to come off. But I think I may explore taking this off because even with all this off, I don't see how I'm gonna be able to comfortably get to the back side of this engine. And it's connected right in here that I'm gonna remove as well. And there's another one underneath that is also on this same harness. I'll show it to you when I get it out, but it's just under here. That one was difficult. And the rest of that harness goes behind the intake manifold. So let's start exploring other things. So I know this tubing here and this tubing here has to come off. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove them. Or maybe I'll just leave that side on, and I'll leave this side on and take this side off. I'm gonna start blowing out the area around the intake manifold. Then I'm gonna start to try and take it off. Thinking removing the air box would be easier than removing the throttle body. I may loosen the hose clamp or loosen this screw. I just use a Phillips. And this should come off. And what else is holding the air box down? Of course, this connector. All right, let's see what we got going. There we go. Nice. And why not remove this one? It seems like it's gonna be easy. Let's see. Yeah, cool. And I said I wasn't gonna remove the throttle body, but I've had a change of heart. These 3 bolts seem to be easier than dealing with all the other connections. So now, throttle body can just rest right there, and that gives me plenty of room to get at this stuff over here. Or at least it seems that way right now. Let me go ahead and replace these. All right, so holding this upper intake manifold, I think that's what it's called. Holding that down are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is there one back here? 6 fasteners, looks like 2 nuts and 4 Allen head bolts or screws. So I'm gonna take the outer ones off first with a 10 M&M. Ooh, don't drop it. And I can take these off with a 5mm Allen head, but one of them seems to be stripped. Fantastic. So I'm gonna see what I can do about getting that out. So I got a Imperial one that just barely fits in there. Let's see if I can get it out. All right, what do you think will happen first? It breaks free or I strip it? Let's see. And it was the latter. All right, plan W. I'm gonna try an extractor. These tighten as you try and loosen. Hopefully it's biting. There we go. So now it is not taking it out, it's hunting for a similar bolt. All right, since that one had issues, I'm going to be gentle with these and see if I can get them out. Don't want to jinx myself, but I think we're all right. All right, cool. Question of the day is, what else do I need to remove? Seems like something over here. Ah, this tube here. Easy enough. Is that it? There's probably more. All right, so there are 2 things. There is a bolt right there, and that tube that's going into the back of it there. I don't know whether it's better to disconnect it there or up here. I'm thinking up here would be better. And this tube, I'm guessing it'd be easier to do it here. All right, now does that free everything? Uh-oh, it looks like it. It looks like it. And I do not have to replace these. They look to be pretty new, like somebody's been in here before. As you can see, they're not compressed and they're still very pliable. So I have a set coming, but I guess I'll just either return it or save them. And rather than stuff towels or fabric down there, I'm gonna clean this off and tape it with painter's tape. This is just brake parts cleaner. Get this surface nice and clean. So it's looking like the thing to do for this rear section is to not remove the harness and flop it away, but just allow it to be free of the valve cover. This clip here, I'm imagining I just pull out, yeah, and that's free. And then we have all the, oh man, wow, all the ignition coil connectors, and they have missing clips as well. So I don't even have to press down, I just have to pull them off. They are all broken. So that may be a fun adventure. And this here, this should just pull up. All right. And this tube, I'm just gonna take it off to get it out of the way. And the injector connectors all still seem to be intact, except for this one. My goodness. Yeah, that one's broken. Then this should come up. All right. There's this here and that there. I'll take those off with a 10mm. That frees up a lot of stuff, but there's one more connector over here. I need stronger fingertips. There we go. There's one more connector back in there. Yeah, that connector right there. So I'm gonna remove that, and I think that will be it. It's basically this connector, but on the other side as far as I can tell. All right, so I finally got that connector off, but I had to use both hands. So I think the last thing connected to the valve cover is the ignition coils. So I'm gonna take them out right quick, and then I'm gonna try and take it off. Ooh, don't do hamstrings before doing this job. And these are oily as well. And they seem to have been replaced. So maybe the last one to get replaced was the one that was throwing the code. That one came apart. All right, the last few things I have to remove is there's this banjo bolt on the front valve cover. There is also one on the rear valve cover. And there it is right there. And I really do believe that will allow me to take it off. But on the rear, there's also, almost bust my tail. There's also one little bracket that holds the tube in right there. I just popped it out. That was tight. I don't know, but I'm gonna save it. So I got this out, and this fell to the ground. So this goes between, I mean, there's one on the head here, but this goes between this and the banjo bolt when you put it back in. So other than that banjo bolt, there is another ground wire right in front of it, or right below it. So I'm going to remove the ground wire and the banjo bolt. There we go. I'm going to try not to drop that little washer this time. Oh, this one moves. The other one didn't move. Ah, there's the washer. But I dropped a little filter. So I dropped the equivalent of this on the backside. Apparently that is the VVT oil control filter. I'm going to keep looking for it, but I'm going to keep moving with the valve cover removal. And it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think there are 11 bolts holding the valve cover on. So I have to access all of them on the backside as well. I'm gonna try and do that one first because it is the most difficult. As I was making sure I could get to all the valve cover bolts on the backside, there is this one little bolt on this bracket here that, what does it hold? It's some kind of connector. I don't know what, but I'm gonna take it. Don't let me forget to put this back in. But anyway, let's get this valve cover off. All right, so let's loosen the back one. First one, switch to the 1/4-inch drive. All right, so there's a mix of 10mm and 12mm bolts holding the valve cover on. So I am prepared to not drop this again, and I hope that this is like the front and it is a 10. So I finally got my 1/4-inch drive ratchet with the socket on it on the bolt that is in this rear corner. It's possible, but there is not a lot of room to apply torque. So if your ratchet is not set in the right position for you to break it, you got to reposition it so you can get torque. So now I got it backing off. Even though you can't see it, you can feel it. And getting to it, it's fun. Just takes a bit of patience and feeling your way in the dark. I got my fingertips on it. I'm twisting it out. Getting that one out was a lot of fun. So that's 3 out. I imagine there's 5 back there. So I think I have a couple more of the corners to do and I should be done. All right, after struggling with those back bolts, I find it hard to believe that they will make it that difficult to get to these. So I'm gonna clean all this off, take off the cowl, and see if I can remove this to have better access to it. So I was struggling with this wiper arm, but I just had to tilt it the right way and it came out. Here, I'll just disconnect this. Come on up. Oh, so I got that one out. Yeah. All right. There's a series of bolts holding down that panel that I'm going to take off. Now there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 14 here. So let's see if that was worth it. Does that make things easier? Absolutely it does. Oh man, not a lot easier, but some. So with that removed, you can actually see the bolt that I'm trying to get to right in there, right there. And I'm gonna see if I can just get to it directly with a ratchet and an extension, which this was not possible before. I thought I was gonna be able to access that bolt like this with an extension straight on it, but the socket kept slipping off. After trying a few things, I finally found something that worked. If you've done this before, how did you get to this back bolt? Okay, I got the socket on it. but is there room to rotate it? So I cracked that little bolt free. Now I'm just working it off with my fingertips. Slow going, but it's coming. So I got it out. Now I'm just trying not to drop it. And I dropped it. All right, where is it? You know what? The heck with it. I'm gonna take the rest of them off and get that valve cover off. So I think the rest of them should be more straightforward. No mistaking where that one goes. So I think that's everything. I'm about to find out if I'm right. And I am not right. There is something else. There's one in the center. Now is it out? Is it free?
Did you ever take that other one out?
Which one?
The one that we were having such a hard time with?
Yeah, I got that out.
Okay.
This side was epoxied down. Let's see if that's all that it was. Seems like something in the rear is keeping me too. Right here, I need to remove this part of the harness, and it looks like a 10mm. There it is. Now, does that give me free? This is a long way to lean. Where you going?
He still got you out here?
He came over here, it was all good. Let's see, am I connected to anything else? Don't think so.
Oh, finally.
Well, there it is. I'm gonna clean this up real good and fish out the bottom part of the ignition coil. But I'm gonna leave that to tomorrow because I have things to do with the ignition coils, the connectors, and I do want to clean off everything real good. But that is the rear valve cover off. This middle ignition coil, the bottom came out with the spring and the bottom part of the rubber. And with all this removed, that should let me get in here and get it. There's the spring, and this would not be possible with everything else on it. So let's see. And there's the rubber with all the oil dripping off of it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take off the front. These are the 10mm. And it looks like the only 12s are right here. 3 of them. Front one's the long one. Remember, like last time, there's the middle one.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot it again.
Especially if you get their custard on the side and dip in the middle.
And this is the front valve cover. Let me take this tube off. And what's that? What is this? One more thing.
Oh, I don't remember where all this goes.
All right, so that is the front valve cover off. Lance is going to take off the old gasket. It looks like they did regular oil changes with quality oil. And this has 260 something thousand miles on it. And this looks pretty good. So in the next video, I'm going to install new ignition coil connectors, install new spark plugs, install the new valve cover gaskets, and hopefully button it up and go for a drive. If you would like to follow along, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care.